WTCR.
Hello and welcome to Marrakesh in Morocco. It's the first race weekend of the 2019 FIA WTCR. The World Touring Car Cup starts here in the heart of the Red City, Morocco's second city. Hello everybody, I'm Martin Haven. Alongside me, Richard Coleman, sweltering down on the grid in 45-degree track temperatures on a sunny Sunday afternoon will be Alex Legui. And Richard Coleman, two races here with Nicky Katzberg, first outing this weekend for the Hyundai team. He starts on our DHL pole. And a change this year, this race, race 2, is worth as many points as race 1 and race 3.
Certainly is, and I imagine that Hyundai would be pretty happy to have the reverse grid. Then they're going to get as many points possibly as if they'd scored the pole position for race 3. But yeah, it's been very, very tight amongst the manufacturers. We've seen Esteban Guerrieri win race 1 yesterday from pole position. Let's
take a look at our grid. Nicky Katzberg starts on pole with Gabriele Tarquini alongside him. They'll be starting on the opposite side to the grid graphic. Jean-Carl Vernet lines up in third place ahead of last. Yesterday afternoon's race 1 winner Esteban Guerrieri. Then Jan Erlaché on row 3 with Mikel Ancona, who got through into Q2, lining up in 6th place. He'll be 5th for the final race. The other Q3 guys, Thiago Montero starts 7th, Ted Björk 8th here, Ivan Muller 9th and Frederick Vervisch 10th. If they all survive, Vervisch will be on pole for the final race of the weekend. Behind them, 3rd place yesterday for Nesta Girolami. He'll want to add more points to that. And Marcin Kwa in the Alfa Romeo for Team Mulsanne. Didn't score yesterday, he's looking to do so today. Behind him, new boy returning to the championship, Augusto Farfus for Hyundai, with his teammate Norbert Michelisz alongside him, suffering from a heavy cold. That happens when you've got kids. Tom Coronel lines up 15th, Andy Priaulx in 16th. Behind him, Gordon Shedden, who qualified 12th fastest, but has a 5-place grid job for not slowing down sufficiently for yellow flags. Damian Hagloff, who qualified in the top 10 yesterday, in 18th place. His teammate starts in 6th position. And then troubled Volkswagens, led by Rob Huff in 19th place, ahead of Kevin Chekon and Attilia Tassi. And then Mehdi Banani, Johan Kristoffersen and Benny Leuchter, the other 3 Golf drivers, pointless so far this weekend and looking as though they may remain that way. And then Niels Langeveld and Olivier Panis, both with penalties after using blowers on the brakes in Parc Fermé. They drop to the back of the grid for this race. They'll take their normal places for the final race of the weekend. But the field is led by our poleman, Nicky Katzberg.
Hello, everybody. So now taking position. Thank you, thank you. So now the mechanicals ask me to brake because they need to fix the wheels. So this is the tricky part of motorsport, when we need to start all in one small part of the track, and we are on 26 cars. We are a little bit struggling in this weekend with our cars, Volkswagen. So we are a little bit on the last part of the grid. So we hope that we can fight, because race is race. We need to fight.
Well, despite his qualifying position, there is no lack of support here from the local hero, Mehdi Banani, in this 10th anniversary touring car race here at the circuit Moulay Al Hassan. And we said Rob Huff in 19th place on the race 2 grid. We had 1 race yesterday, race 1, and then 2 today, race 2 and race 3. And the best of Volkswagens only just in the top 20. Banani 22nd, Johan Kristoffersen 23rd, Benny Leuchter 24th, and they would be last row of the grid, Kristoffersen and Leuchter, were it not for Langeveld and Panis picking up penalties. Frederick Vervisch, perhaps the surprise of qualifying today, he finished 24th in qualifying yesterday, first in qualifying today. Hard to argue with the way he's turned his fortunes around. In the French commentary booth next to us is one of his teammates from last year, and he claims that dinner with him is the secret to success. So if you want to go quick in Hungary, then you've got to go out with the French Eurosport commentators to try and find that speed. But Frederick Vervisch, he had a couple of punctures yesterday. There's been a slew of punctures, Richard. That's really been one of the big stories here that we weren't expecting coming in. Punctures, tyres rolling off the rims. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when we get to a circuit like Hungaroring next time out, with lots of constant radius, high-speed corners, quite how the teams cope with that.
Yeah, Yokohama choosing a softer compound for this year, and some of that is that were some suggestions that some of the teams were not using the tyres correctly last year, and perhaps fiddling with the sidewall of the tyre, so they've gone for a softer tyre this year, but it's given some problems. The team's having to start with very low starting pressures to get the performance out of the tyre, and literally at times that means the tyres have been rolling off the rim.
If Armel is starting 9th here, he'll be second on the grid behind Vervisch for race 3. And his only points this season so far, this is the first race weekend, of course, have come from qualifying, because he qualified second fastest yesterday. Then an engine change put him to the back of the grid. He didn't lose the points because he had set that time, and the penalty only came in for the race. So he didn't score any points in the race, but he did at least get points for qualifying then and today. And from the top 10, he'll be hoping for points in race 2 as well. Possible problem under the bonnet for Ted Björk. He was fairly sanguine after finishing in second place yesterday in the Lincoln Co's debut in TCR, run by Cyan Racing, and he also has qualified third fastest for the final race of the weekend behind Vervisch and teammate Muller. So right now, second in the championship. Ted Björk, the 2017 World Touring Car champion, feeling fairly relaxed. Little worry perhaps that the bonnet was up, because we did have one of the cars with an overheating problem, one of the Cyan Racing cars in qualifying. It was fairly fast fix, but it's not exactly hot here. If they're overheating in what's maybe 21, 22 degrees, if they get to with that kind of a problem to Villarreal, where the temperature could be 20 degrees hotter, then they really might struggle.
You have to remember that despite how well it's done this weekend on the debut race weekend for Lincoln Co, you know, it is only the first race for that car, and fairly early in the development process of it. So yeah, with Ivan sticking up there on the front row twice, it's very easy to forget that it's a new car.
Yeah. And new car problems undoubtedly will come along. Thiago Monteiro returns for a full championship season. Made a hugely emotional return to racing last year in Villarreal, and now has come back for the full season with one of a pair of Hondas run under the banner of KCMG, the Hong Kong team, by Yas Sport, and he lines up 4th for the final race of the weekend. All of this, of course, assuming they survive race 2 here, where the top 10 are reversed. The big sensation of Q3, though, was the presence of this young man, the TCR Europe champion from last year, Mikel Azcona from Spain. A real live wire and a very quick young peddler. Yesterday, his teammate in PWR, Daniel Hegloff, was the man who qualified strongest in the top 10 and was up for an 8th place finish until he picked up a puncture in the middle of race 1. But Azcona, if he can survive this race, will start from 6th here and 5th place in the final encounter. So a chance for the young man on his debut weekend, not just to go through into Q3, but also to post a decent points score as well. And above all else, Richard, getting points is the key thing here. You know, there's 80 points per weekend, and if you can come away with 25 or 30, you've had a really good weekend.
Yeah, look at Ted Björk last year, you know, obviously a former champion in 2017, but last year didn't really feature towards the end in the series. He's too many points behind, but took 5 race wins last year. Yeah. This championship really is about being consistent and scoring as many points as you say. This guy led the championship halfway through last season in a different car, of course, but he's surrounded by much more experienced teammates, but you can only expect that he will feature in this championship. He's an older head on very young shoulders.
Well, we saw him make his debut here 2 years ago, and Alex Legui was down congratulating him on being in 10th place in qualifying, having the reverse grid. He said, "Oh yes, but it is not a pole, real pole." And right from that moment, I thought, OK, he's exactly the right stuff to be a racing driver. Yeah, it's a pole, but it's not a proper pole because I wasn't the fastest driver. And that's exactly the racer's mentality that he has, that his uncle Ivan Muller has got as well, that his mother Kathy Muller had when she was racing as well. His mother raced up into Formula 3000s, still runs her own successful team. She does Trophy Andros ice racing, so he's raced with her. Aurélien Panis and Olivier Panis have raced with them. So still very much a motor racing family.
This circuit's, of course, not a permanent track. It's streets that the public use every day the rest of the year, and therefore it's quite dusty offline. It's quite a challenging circuit in that regard. And this guy made it look very easy yesterday, having won the race from pole position. Didn't have the best start, but kept a very cool head defending from Ted Bjork into turn one yesterday. I expect he'll be looking for a big points haul from both races this afternoon, and will look to probably leave here as championship leader.
Yeah, he may well, from fourth place, have a chance to end up on the podium here again. As you say, yesterday the winner, Ted Bjork, just gave him enough racing room to survive in corners 1 and 2, and he held his nerve and held his line and stayed in front. So he's looking to try and, again, amass as many points as possible. When you start as the championship leader on day one, you don't want to give that opportunity away. If you get a head start on anybody in any kind of racing, then that is solid gold. Jean-Carl Vernet, well, he had a bit of a torrid day yesterday, made a move on Andy Priaulx. Priaulx shut the door maybe a little late into turn one. As a result, dropped down from 3rd to 6th. JK moved up, then got penalised and dropped down the order. He also had a fine after qualifying. The fire extinguisher went off in his car, and he was then fined as a result of that. But he lines up in 3rd place for this race. Scored points yesterday. He won race 2 here last year. So, again, I'm sure he'll be very happy if he can get a podium finish out of this one, and then take 7th on the grid into race 3 and see what he can do with that. Whichever way it works, if he can end up in the points in all 3 races, which is very much a possibility, then this is going to end up being a good start to the season for him.
The one thing I would say about the Audi as well, Martin, is that we've seen it consistently doing well in the speed traps, which means that it should have a good chance of being able to overtake. This circuit's very difficult to overtake on, so to have any chance, you've really got to have a car with good straight line speed, and the Hyundai hasn't looked so good in the speed traps. So maybe Jean-Carl's looking to perhaps go forward in this race and may have an opportunity to overtake.
Well, front row of the grid belongs to the Hyundai team. Gabriele Tarquini, our champion, with that new gold livery on his Spider-Man helmet. He was 4th place in the first race, and he's got a great opportunity to be on the podium here with only his teammate Nicky Katzberg, the pole man, in front of him. Gabriele won race 1 and race 3 here last year in a car that then was definitely the quickest car in the opening race weekend. He also claimed pole position in the top 5 shootout, so he came away with the championship lead and a hatful of points. And in the end, after a roller coaster season where he was up, he was down, he was up, he was down like everybody else, he ended up as a champion by just 3 points. And if it's any bigger a margin than that this year, I think we'll all be absolutely gobsmacked. The man who starts on pole, though, making his return to World Touring Car Racing, is Nicky Katzberg. The Dutchman raced previously up to a couple of years ago in the TC1 class, of course, with the Lada team. And then he's also been racing in World Endurance Championship, still is racing in World Endurance Championship. Scored points yesterday for 11th position, and of course he'll be in 10th place for the final race. But the opportunity now to score maximum points must not elude him. He's on pole, he's got as much chance of scoring winning points here as in any other race, so he's got to take them. And so the pressure on Nicky Katzberg to make a good start will be very real. Well, the well-wishers, the friends and the family, all clearing the grid. The tyre trolleys are being wheeled away as well. We're within a couple of minutes of the start of the race. The final formation lap about to get underway. Alex Legui pegging it up the pit lane to get herself into position. Quick view of Jean-Carl Vernet, who will start in 3rd spot. And there is Mikel Azcona, young Spanish driver, who'll be 5th place on the race 3 grid, in 6th place on this grid. And there is our race director, Mirek Bartosz. Waves the green flag for the final formation lap. 2 races back-to-back here with only a brief pause for breath, a little bit of fluid and repair time in between. As we head away, the field led by our poleman, Nicky Katzberg, with his teammate, the reigning champion, Gabriele Tarquini, alongside him. Jean-Carl Vernet, the best Audi on the grid, in 3rd, ahead of yesterday's winner, Esteban Guerrieri. Jan Erlache, the best of the Lincoln Co cars in this race, lines up in 5th, ahead of the Cupra of Miguel Ascona. Then Thiago Monteiro in his Honda. And then Cyan Racing's Ted Björk and Ivan Muller ahead of Fredrik Vervisch and the Come2You Audi that will start the final race from pole. From 11th on down, barring penalties, this is where they'll start for both encounters. Nestor Girolami, Marcin Kwa, Augusto Farfus and teammate Norbert Mikulis. Then Tom Coronel in his Cupra, first time out in a Cupra this season for him. And then Andy Priaulx returns to World Touring Car Racing. He's ahead of the penalised Gordon Shedden and Daniel Hegloff. And then the better of the Golfs is Rob Huff in 19th, ahead of Kevin Chekon in 20th. Attila Tassi, 21st. Then Mehdi Benani, Johan Kristoffersen and Denny Leuchner in the disappointing Volkswagens, down in the low 20s. And Niels Langerfeldt and Aurelian Panis, the final row of our Race 2 grid. Cars on the final formation lap around this very short, less than 3-kilometre track. This is the 3-time World Touring Car Champion, Andy Priaulx. Let's hear what's on his mind.
Something strange happened there on the launch. I just lost a lot of power, and engine just dropped, and then it went again.
Copy that, understood. Does it feel okay now?
Yeah, engine feels fine, but there was something not right on the launch.
That's a little bit of a worry for Andy Priaulx, like Augusto Farfus, a former teammate of his, former multiple season competitor in World Touring Car Championships. They're both used to rear-wheel drive cars. They're both in front-wheel drive race cars for the first time, in Augusto's case in over a decade, in Andy's in almost 2 decades, 17 years since he last drove a front-wheel drive car. So they're experiencing a whole lot of different sensations that their teammates are already fully up to speed with. For Priaulx and Farfus, it's going to be a big learning curve, particularly early this season. So cars heading round to the grid in this tight street circuit in Marrakesh. There's Johan Kristoffersen, double World Rallycross champion in his Golf. Benny Leuchner, the man who developed the TCR Golf, and still doesn't know quite where their pace has gone to this weekend. This is the sort of circuit that perhaps should suit the Golf GTI a lot better than it appears to be doing.
One interesting thing, Martin, given the tyre problems we've had this weekend, Yokohama were not keen on the drivers weaving too much to the grid, whereas I think we've pretty much seen everybody do that, because ultimately you can't give performance away at the start to the cars around you, so everybody's kind of risked that. So it'll be interesting to see if that has any effect on some of the punctures that we've seen.
Race 2 of the FIA World Touring Car Cup. We're in Marrakesh, Morocco. 26 cars on the grid, 5 red lights are on, and away we go. Nicky Katzberg on pole on the right-hand side of your screen. Gabriele Tarquini, and Katzberg outstarts Tarquini. Almost nobody outstarts Tarquini in a front-wheel drive touring car. 3rd is Jean-Carl Vernet, and then you can see the blue Cyan Racing cars. Somebody's lost a door mirror on the inside. The grey car is Miguel Ascona, and he is battling with, looks like Ted Björk around the outside. Björk number 11, behind him number 100, that's Ivan Muller. So Ascona holds his position, and Jan Erlache just in front of them, the best of the blue Cyan Racing cars. Looks like it's a relatively clean start. 1 door mirror as we come down to the chicane is the carnage so far. So everybody being a little bit cautious. Richard Coleman, this is a massive field of cars on a very tiny racetrack. The potential for first lap disaster is all too evident.
Everybody being very cautious. Of course, we've got another race coming up after this one. That will be in the drivers' minds. But yeah, very clean start for most of the field there. No major incidents. Interestingly enough, that to see Tarquini lose out at the start, but I think that he's on the dirtier side of the track, and I think that may have featured there with such a great getaway from Nicky Katzberg.
Looked like Kevin Chekon trying to go the long way round the outside of Rob Huff in the Alfa. I'm not sure that's going to work for him. Nicky Katsberg leads from Tarquini and Verne, and the two Hyundais have got to try and get away from the Audi, because as you pointed out before the start, the Audi has got better top speed, and that might count against them. End of lap 1 comes around very quickly, and leaders already onto lap 2. It's just 90 seconds around here. This is like a short oval in NASCAR terms. Tarquini in second, Verne in third, and they've already put a gap between themselves and Jan Erlaché. Now, this reflects yesterday's race, where the top 7 or 8 cars were clear, and Erlaché didn't have that pace and held the rest of the field up behind him. Now, he's doing the same thing in 4th place, and here's Frederik Vervisch looking back towards him from Thiago Monteiro. Vervisch wants to move up, wants to take points, but must keep the car in one piece for the final encounter of the afternoon.
3 or 4 straights here, and that gives a good towing opportunity where the cars slipstream each other, and once you lose that tow, it's very easy to fall apart. So it's interesting to see how these groupings will come together, but yeah, I think everyone's being relatively cautious on these opening couple of laps.
Absolutely, it's a long race here, 18 laps and 21 laps for race 3, so lots of opportunity to try and work out where the weaknesses lie in the car in front of you. Erlaché in 4th place. We're looking forward now from Esteban Guerrieri. There is Jan Erlaché. Right behind Guerrieri is the Spaniard Azcona, who looks like he was starting to pull out of the slipstream there. Might just be having a little look, moving around in the Honda driver's mirrors to try and unsettle him. Azcona is very racy here. He's got nothing to lose and everything to gain in putting in a good performance today in this second day of the championship. Jan Erlaché in 4th place. The gap is growing. He's already 1.1 seconds behind Jean-Carl Verne, and the gap first to third is only 0.9 seconds.
Some great onboard shots here that give you a real idea of how blind some of the corners are here.
We're looking at the lead trio breaking away. That's bad news for Tarquini. It's good news for Verne in the turquoise and red Audi, because he hasn't got anybody behind him. In the pits already, Mehdi Bennani. Sebastian Loeb Racing, Volkswagen Motorsport having a horrendous weekend. Bennani is in the pits. Huff is last. So I don't know what happened to Rob Huff on the opening lap, but whatever it wasn't a good thing.
Hopefully they haven't run into each other, because they have got form for doing that last year a number of times.
Yeah, Bennani had contact with Tom Coronel in the first race on lap 1, and neither of them finished lap 2. Looking at Erlaché there, dropping away still from Verne, with Guerrieri behind him. And Esteban Guerrieri's got to try and take advantage of this, because he's going to be further back. Well, I guess he's going to be 6th place, 7th place, whatever. It doesn't make much difference, but if you can move up in the points. Guerrieri coming in today as the championship leader, of course.
And now as we start to see these sort of groups form, it's almost like a bit of a prisoner's dilemma. You look at someone like Guerrieri in a shot right now. He's got to decide, is it worth the risk of trying to get past Erlaché? Because if he doesn't, he's going to come under attack from Azcona. So it's all a question of, well, I don't want to take any risk. I'm quite happy where I am, but I'm possibly going to get attacked from behind. So it's a bit of a prisoner's dilemma for some of these cars now as we get into these groupings. You've got to decide whether you're going to try and get through or defend.
And the slight worry in the drivers' minds will be the penalties that were handed out yesterday. One for what looked like a bit of a late lunge. The other one for Jean-Carl Verne looked like it probably should have been allowed to go as a genuine racing attempt to pass. But Andy Priaulx closed the door maybe a little late on Jean-Carl Verne, and they made contact. But that's going to be a little worry as well, that if you make a pass here, or you try and make a pass, it's almost inevitably going to involve a little bit of door panel rubbing, and the stewards don't seem to be very keen on that at the start of the season. Looks like somebody's taken a bit of a decision to have a hard line, which doesn't really work well on a tight street circuit. Jan Erlaché in that bright blue and yellow car is definitely struggling for pace. 127.75 for him last time round, 127.5 for the cars in front, so he's losing 0.2 a lap. Let's hear from Gabriele Tarquini. He lies in second.
Check the water temperature, Gabriele, check the water temperature.
Okay, has he got a little overheating alarm coming up? Whatever, he is dropping away from Nicky Katsberg, and I don't think he's deliberately trying to back up Jean-Carl Verne, because clearly, from yesterday, Erlaché has lost ground. In fact, I'm not sure that Erlaché was 4th in the background of that shot, with
despite the fact the ambient temperatures aren't too high here, because of the close walls and very dark tarmac, we often see this in this stage of the race where we start to get engine temperatures just creep up. There's just, for some reason, there's always a bit of heat soak at this Moroccan circuit.
Yeah. Well, El Haché is still in 4th place ahead of Guerrieri and Ascona, but he is dropping ground. Jean-Carl Vernet now with the fastest race lap. You can see drivers already fanning out down the straight to allow cooling air into the radiators. Thiago Monteiro, and behind him Frederik Vervisch on opposite sides of the road. So everybody clearly is a little worried about making sure the brakes are cool enough, particularly because this is a lot of stopping on this track, and to make sure the coolers for the engine and the gearbox and so on are also getting enough air.
And of course these cars are tucked up behind one another, and all they're doing is breathing in the hot exhaust gases of the car in front, which is why you're starting to see some of them fan out just to try and keep those temperatures under control. Some of them haven't got temperature issues, it's just that once you get a temperature issue, it's very difficult to bring it back down again.
Yeah. Ascona pulls out again to try and look at Esteban Guerrieri. He's the man that we're here from now.
Inside of the car, what's the air intake for the radiator? Can you tell me, please?
The air intake is on for the radiator is on the right-hand side, and for the engine is on left.
Okay.
All right, so that was his engineer, Dave Scott, telling him that if he pulls out one way, he'll cool the radiator. If he pulls out the other way, he'll cool the transmission cooler as well. So, and you're absolutely right. You know, air temperature here is in the 20s. Air temperature coming out of the exhaust is in the hundreds of degrees, so you don't need that stiflingly hot air going through, because then the cooling differential between the cool air and the hot coolant is almost nil.
And as we saw before the start of the race, the track temperature's in the 40s, and as you can see, the air intakes are on the floor of these cars, and there's very little airflow with all of these walls around the circuit, so very difficult for the drivers to get airflow, and we're only on lap 6 of 18.
And already they're starting to panic a little. Well, the man who doesn't have to worry is Nicky Katzberg, because he's got clear air in front of him. Was that rolling from Jean-Carl Vernet? We'll have to wait and see whether anything comes up about that. Esteban Guerrieri getting jumped quite conclusively by Jan El Haché, and then bumped around the outside by Ted Björk. On board with Mikel Ascona, he goes to the inside. He sees that the Honda isn't moving very quickly. That door's closed. Björk comes sailing around the outside. High, wide and handsome, ladies and gentlemen.
Guerrieri did very well to keep his cool there again, I have to say.
On board with Thiago Monteiro. And then Björk. See, Björk's just going along where everybody's going inside. He and Muller are going the outside channel, and it works. They both picked up spots. Ascona came back inside Muller, but they both got ahead of Thiago as a result. Then they both got, they got ahead, and they're staying ahead. And down into turn 3, there was a little bit of body work. Somebody lost a splitter. Actually, that looks like maybe Daniel Hegloff lost a splitter, or maybe it came off Bernani's car. Whoa, who was that? That was Coronel. So that was the turn 7 incident that they're looking at later on. And Coronel and Shedden and Huff and Bernani.
It was Huff and Bernani that managed to run into each other in that melee.
Yikes. Well, Bernani's out of the race. Huff has recovered 1 spot. He's now 24th ahead of Benny Leuchter, his Volkswagen teammate, with Aurelien Panis 23rd and Attila Tassi 22nd. Up towards the top of the pile, Jan El Haché clinging on to 4th place. He's now 3 seconds away from the group in front.
I've just noticed that Vernet's lapping very quickly now. He was sort of 6-7 tenths quicker than Tarquini last time around, and slightly slower that lap, but I wonder if that's because he'd sort of caught Tarquini.
Yeah, it looks as though he gave himself a little bit of a breather and then closed back up. And that's the thing, is that we think that the Audi, I mean, he qualified faster than the 2 cars who started in front of him, because this is the reverse grid. So empirically, his car is quicker, so he can drop back and then catch up. Maybe he was just giving himself a breather, maybe he's giving his temperatures a little bit of a rest. Whatever, the lead trio are the lead trio, and El Haché is making darn sure that nobody gets by him for 4th, and as a result, they can't get to the cars in front. Augusto Farfus in 12th place. Let's hear from him.
We have a lot more understeer than yesterday, a lot more.
A lot worse understeering, is that what you heard?
I missed the beginning part of the transmission, Martin,
Yeah.
but
I think so. And again, the track is a totally different animal to what it was yesterday. It's less dusty. It started yesterday wet, and the track temperature is maybe 20 degrees, certainly 15 higher than it was yesterday, and that's got a very germane effect on how much grip there is, how quickly it goes away. And Farfus particularly was saying that he feels, having tested on last year's construction of tyre and this year's with the softer, more pliable sidewall, he thinks that the window of performance is much smaller on this year's tyre than it was. The sweet spot is harder to find and harder to drive within. He said the real problem with this year's tyre is you tend to be very capable of overdriving and overheating it, and then getting it back down to manageable condition is really tough. Well, looking back from our top two, that was the view of Jean-Carl Vernet. There's Jan Erlechet ahead of Esteban Guerrieri in the grey car, Mikel Ascona, Ted Björk and Ivan Muller, the two blue cars, then Thiago Montero and Frederick Verbisch. So far, very few changes in the lead group, and again, everybody is going to be aware that there is still race 3 to get to, and the guys here, 10th and 9th in this race, will start 1st and 2nd in the final race, so you really don't want to jeopardise that if you don't have to.
we can still see more and more temperature management coming into the game with the cars fanning out on the straights.
Robert Michelish there in 14th, Andy Priaulx 15th, ahead of Tom Coronel, Gordon Shedden. And then two Swedes, Daniel Hagloff ahead of Johan Kristoffersson, who's now the best of the Volkswagen Golfs in 19th place. Points go down to 15, so Andy Priaulx, the last man earning a point in the race as it stands. There's Katzberg, Tarquini and Vernet. This is a very different group of cars because Jan Erlechet just can't stay with the front-running pace, but Guerrieri hasn't quite got enough in hand to get by him yet, has he? Hasn't looked close enough to make a challenge on the Cyan Racing driver.
No, and obviously, again, as we've said, very mindful. We've got a race coming up straight after this one.
Yeah. So Esteban Guerrieri scoring points yesterday. He'll start in 7th place on the final race grid. So anything he gets now goes into the hat. He's currently in 5th, and 5th is a lot better than DNF. But again, you see the cars fanning out. Guerrieri goes to his left, Ascona goes to his right, just to make sure he keeps the temperatures within manageable reach.
Great camera angle. He's showing the speed of these cars.
Oh, and that's Nicky Katzberg, the race leader, is off in the tyres. Gabriele Tarquini, where's he gone? Has he got the lead? Yes, he has. Tarquini and Vernet, and suddenly Jan Erlechet is looking at a podium, and Katzberg overcooks it under braking and goes up the escape road.
Unbelievable.
Now, he doesn't... Now, we've seen people get it wrong under braking there without hitting the tyres. When the car suddenly went right, was that a brake problem?
I think that was a last-minute decision that he wasn't going to make the corner. But I have to say, he did look like he's carrying a lot of speed, like the car wasn't slowing down.
Yeah. I'm not sure that was entirely driver error. Nicky Katzberg is out. The chance of a win has gone. And suddenly...
Safety car, Martin.
The Silver Fox, Gabriele Tarquini, is our race leader. Well, Katzberg's fire extinguisher's gone off in the car. That's what all the smoke is about. And they need to rescue him from there. Let's take a look again, Richard. He's making it, and then the car is fully locked up and into the tyres. He didn't look like he got in too deep there, and he couldn't make the corner.
It was a late call to decide that he wasn't going to make the corner, that's for sure. That's what I think the jinx to the right is, but I must admit, the car just doesn't seem to slow down.
I wonder if the pedal just went straight to the floor, because that did not... you know, there's no indication before that he had any kind of a problem.
And again, he's a race leader. He wasn't in anyone's dirty hot air. He was, you know, in theory, had the airflow that he needed.
Well, it's an ill wind that blows no good. Tom Coronel is now moving up into the points as Gabriele Tarquini is our race leader. All right, well, there's only one way to find out what happened there, and that's to hear either from Nicky Katzberg or his engineer. And one way or the other, he is not going to win this race. And that is a massive blow, because that was 25 points sitting in his lap with only 6 laps to go, or 7 laps to go when he went off. And now those 25 points won't come to him. They are likely to go to Gabriele Tarquini to help his title defence. He's also unlikely to be taking his grid slot for race 2 as well, Martin. So, you know, most likely looking at a 0-0 from this afternoon's races. Yeah, because they won't get the car back to the pit lane to get any work done on it in this race. So unless there is only minor damage, and if it was a brake failure, then there might be an awful lot more work than they can get done. As you say, he should be starting 10th for the final race, race 3, but if the car is too badly damaged, the chances of that happening are probably receding with every minute. So Bruno Carrera, our safety car driver, leads the field around. Didn't look like a big impact. But, I mean, he's halfway into the corner, and then the car veers hard right, almost into the wall. Yeah, I must admit, it does look an odd accident. Oh, that is quite a lot of damage. That may not be cosmetic. That looks like there's quite a lot of probably cooling damage. Now, Mehdi Banani has left the pits, but let's hear from our new race leader.
How's with the brake, Gabriele? How's with the brake?
Quite hard. Quite hard. Now I'm putting it down.
Yeah, we have time to cool down now, so it will be better. Better than race 1.
Well, now I wonder why he's asking him how his brakes are. That's very interesting indeed. Safety car out here in Marrakesh, and you'll notice that the race distance has gone from 18 up to 19 laps, and it will shortly go up to 20 laps. We can add up to 2 laps to any race to allow for safety car incidents. So the cars are fueled to go long enough. It's not that they'll run out before the end of the race. Mehdi Banani has left the pit lane in his repaired car, so he can just do a lap or 2, perhaps, to make sure that everything is back together for race 3 here. Gabriele Tarquini, the race leader. Team have just been asking him about the brakes, and Tarquini saying it's pretty hard, but everybody will have a chance to let things cool down. At least the brake temperatures will come down. The problem with them going so slowly is actually there won't be quite enough cooling air to really bring water temperatures and coolant temperatures down. And there's the reason the safety car is out. Nicky Katzberg, the race leader, in the barriers after 11 and laps of the race. 12th lap it was when he went off. When 11th lap he went off. Nicky Katzberg taking the lead of the race from the reverse grid pole position. Gabriele Tarquini, little bump into Katzberg's back bumper as he braked a little earlier than the Italian into the first corner. Tarquini, always a great starter of a front-wheel drive touring car, but Katzberg matching him away from the line, gets onto the brakes just a little bit earlier than Gabriele was anticipating. View here from Esteban Guerrieri, too much wheel spin, can't get the car off the line. Past him goes Jan Erlaché for 4th, and then around the outside, watch Ted Björk come by. Guerrieri holds his nerve, and that's where the mirror got lost. It was off Björk's car. A little further back, Michele Ascona trying to get around Guerrieri, can't. There goes Björk. Here comes Ivan Muller around the outside as well. He too tries the outside channel. As Björk loses a bit of mirror, Ascona comes back underneath him on the exit of corner 1 with Thiago Monteiro. Everybody going inside, and here come the Cyan Racing drivers going the long way round the outside. Well, if there's space there, try and use it. The next corner is a long right-hand curve. So you can see that the Cyan Racing drivers did succeed in making up a place each, but not more than that. Well, Jan Erlaché at that stage was in 4th place. There's a little bumping and boring at turn 4. Somebody lost a bit of bumper, and then down at corner 7, it all got a little bit unsightly. What's not been a great weekend for, that looked like Gordon Shedden got into Tom Coronel, and then I think all the Golfs got into each other. Rob Huff came out worst of all, and then the safety car out because Nicky Katzberg's car went straight off. Now Marcinkoir in with another puncture. That may be debris. It may just be one of the factors that we've had here in qualifying and the race. That's not his first, and it's certainly not the first that we've had. Safety car is about to come in, so Mar is out of any possible points contention.
So we're hearing that Katzberg didn't speak to the team on the radio, which, you know, maybe reading into that, if he feels it was driver error, he might not be in the mood for talking.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go green in a moment. Let's hear from Guerrieri.
Please take no risk. P4 is good points. Please don't take any big risk, okay?
I really focused at the start. I just went full. But yeah, luckily only one position.
Copy, maintenance starts is what we have to work on at the moment, so we know all about this. We'll do more after the race, but yeah, understand it. Look for race 3.
What happened to Katzberg? He just ran out of brakes, yeah?
Yeah, something like that, or a tyre or suspension or something. He just went straight on.
All right, so we go green once more with 14 laps completed.
Awful restart for Vernet.
Yeah,
Awful.
Don't know what he was thinking of. Everybody knew the safety car was coming in. Listen, if I know, they all know, but in fact, it was an awful restart from everybody. Nobody's even remotely close to anybody else. It's like they didn't want to try and take a place. Vernet was miles back, came across the line 2 full seconds behind Gabriele Tarquini. 2 seconds!
I'd be screaming on the radio.
Well, he'll be kicking himself, and if he's not, then I'm not quite sure what is going on.
When we used to come here before, we used to race in later months, and I remember that our race team, we always used to run a very different brake fluid here, different compound of pads, all kinds of things, because this was such a heavy brake circuit, and part of it is just that the brakes never recover from critical temperatures, not enough to cool them down. So it is possible that Katzberg was victim of some kind of failure, but again, you'd expect him to be in the best airflow out in the front. So yeah, it's an interesting one, and hopefully we'll get the full story after this race. But it's also interesting he didn't speak to the team on the radio. If it was a failure, you'd think he'd be the first to scream on the radio that the car had let him down, and it wasn't his fault. So I think that could be a bit of a theme as well, reading into it.
Well, also with Nicky, you know, he's very much, he'll put his hand up and say, I'm really sorry, guys, that was me. And so the fact he's not said anything is most unusual, you're right. Frederik Vervish, our poleman for the final race of the weekend, now up to 9th place, but he's having a little look at Thiago Monteiro in front of him. If you can get 8th, take 8th. And look at the way that the Audi turns off the corner, much tighter than Thiago's Honda. Trying to find a way to get by. I think Vervish might have the bit between his teeth. He qualified 24th yesterday, ended up with a jump start penalty that dropped him out of the few points that he'd had, so he's got 0 coming into today. Really wants to turn that around. Got 5 points in qualifying. There is only points so far this season, so now if he can grab any more, then that'll be better and better. Well, Rob Huff in the Golf, how's he managed to set the fastest lap of the race now when they've had no pace so far all weekend? That's possibly not going to help them in terms of the weight transfer between the cars over the next couple of races.
Madness that the engineers weren't telling him on the radio. He's in 22nd position. Why on earth would you wish to set the fastest lap where we're in a balance and performance-based championship? That's really poor from the team on that front to not warn Rob.
And it's not like he's the only one and all the other guys are scoring strongly. None of the 4 Volkswagens are even in 1-point scoring position. So far, Volkswagen are looking at a big fat 0 from the weekend across 4 cars. I mean, that's almost inconceivable. Well, this is Daniel Hegloff ahead of his compatriot Johan Kristoffersson. That's the battle for 16th place. PWR versus SLR. Looking forward from the golf of Johan Kristoffersen. He was really hoping with the first session of free practice was wet and dry, that it might stay wet and dry, and that would help his rallycross experience play into his hands, but it didn't seem to work that way for him. Everything dried out in the end. Marcinkois, we hear, hit debris on the track. There was a little bit from the first lap, so pretty unfortunate to pick up that puncture. Meanwhile, we are with Mikel Ascona, who is in 5th position and looking to be about the raciest person in the field. He's still trying to get by Esteban Guerrieri. This young man could be a really great addition. There's the PWR racing team watching him. He already is a really great addition to this world-class field.
Very young, but got a great pedigree, having won the European Championship last year.
Well, as it is, Gabriele Tarquini leading the race into the closing stage. This is lap 18 of 20. Only another 8 kilometres for him to survive, ahead of Jean-Carl Vernet and Jan Erlaché, which will give us a Hyundai, an Audi and a Lincoln Co on the podium. But Esteban Guerrieri in 4th place, if nothing changes in the remaining 2.5 laps, will stay our race leader. Mikel Ascona may be keeping Guerrieri honest. Is he going to get by? Well, he got penalised for a late lunch yesterday, didn't he, the Spaniard? So he'll be a little cautious about having another one, particularly as he could be on for a big points haul in race 3 as well.
And Guerrieri will be very aware of who's driving that car. A young hot shoe, maybe not quite as kind of long game orientated as some of the other old hands that he'd know and trust. He's a new driver to the championship, doesn't really know his style of driving. All of those things will be in Esteban's head as we head into the final 2 laps of this race 2.
Looking at Tom Coronel's yellow Cupra in the middle of the battle, just in front of him Andy Priaulx, right behind him Gordon Shedden, a 3-time world champion and a 3-time British touring car champion, with Coronel between them. Coronel came into the championship with Seat, with the Seat Leon, before the turbo diesel came through. I spent a number of years with BMW, then with Honda, now back with Cupra, which of course is a Seat brand. Looking back at Thiago Monteiro, this is from from Ivan Muller. That's a battle for 7th. Monteiro not close enough. Penultimate lap, Gabriele Tarquini. It looks like the top 5 shootout in qualifying. He's so far ahead of Jean-Carl Vernet.
Yeah, and again, I'm surprised that Gabriele is pushing that hard as well, because particularly with the concerns here over brake temperature and everything else.
Well, Tarquini was 2 seconds ahead of Vernet at the restart. He's now 3 seconds ahead, so he's opened up the gap. Vernet looking much racier than the 2 Hyundais early on in this showing. And then Erlaché, Guerrieri and Ascona. And Guerrieri must just be going, please don't outbrake yourself and hit me. Please don't outbrake yourself and hit me. Right now, Ascona in 5th position needs pretty much to stay where he is. But it doesn't look like he's really wanting to, because Guerrieri is bottled up behind Erlaché and is there for the taking, Ascona thinks. Might have to come down to a bit of a last lap lunge, mightn't it? There's Ted Björk ahead of Ivan Muller. Björk finished 2nd yesterday, 2nd in the championship coming in here. So another hatful of points for 6th position. That'll be good news for him. And on to the final lap with Thiago Monteiro. Still trying to find his way ahead of Ivan Muller, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. Now, the sensible heads among us are encouraging Ascona to just chill a little bit. I'm sure he's getting similar messages on the radio from the team, but if this is him chilled, I'm not sure I want to see him getting racy with anybody.
He's definitely letting Esteban know that he's there, trying to get busy in his mirrors as much as he can.
Yeah, because he senses that Guerrieri is still jammed up behind Erlaché and can't find a way through. Now perhaps down the final furlongs as they race for home. Ascona will take it a little easier. Thiago Monteiro hasn't given up on Ivan Muller either. That's the battle for 7th. Looking back from Muller's blue Sign Racing Lincoln Co car to the Honda, the KCMG run car of Thiago Monteiro. Monteiro scored well yesterday. He's going to score strongly again today in 8th place. I think he'll be very happy so far with how his return to the series on a full-time basis has gone. But Gabriele Tarquini, the defending champion, the one race he didn't win here last year was race 2. He makes up for that. He wins race 2 in Marrakesh from Jean-Carl Vernet and Yann Erlaché. Esteban Guerrieri remains our points leader with 4th. Mikel Ascona in 5th position. Behind them, Ted Björk, Ivan Muller, Thiago Monteiro, Frederick Vervisch and Nestor Girolami round out the top 10. And the points go on down through Augusto Farfus in 11th, Norbert Mikulich in 12th, Andy Prio 13th, Tom Coronel 14th, and the final point goes to Gordon Shedden in 15th. 25 points for Gabriele Tarquini, and he will start in 9th place in race 2. So he's got another chance of a big points haul.
You are the number 1! Congratulations, man! Grazie. Non so neanche come sono arrivato alla fine, ma ce l'ho fatto.
So Gabriele Tarquini, our race 2 winner from Jean-Carl Vernet and Yann Erlaché. One more race still to come here in Marrakesh. Well, we still need, and I'm sure all the other teams really need to find what happened to Nicky Katzberg. Because Richie Coleman, it looked like he had the race sewn up. Nobody was really close to challenging him. He was in clear air, all the signs looked good, and then suddenly the car shot off stage right. Well, let's hear from Jean-Carl Vernet, our runner-up.
Ouais, super Jean-Charles, super Jean-Charles. Bon boulot, super, top. Va doucement dans ton tour de rentrée pour économiser de l'essence et essaye de prendre du pick-up là où tu peux en prendre. Et va très doucement dans ton tour. Shift vraiment tôt et va doucement. Belle course, super, bon boulot.
Well, lots of good job and well done and great race and everything else, and then instructions to reset the mapping and bring the car in and try and get some pickup on the tyres as well to make sure that it is above the minimum ride height as he comes into Parc Fermé. So Gabriele Tarquini, our race 2 winner, will be joined on the podium by Jean-Carl Vernet and Yann Erlaché.
Yeah, well, I think we're just all fascinated about what happened with Katzberg, you know. Fantastic where he was, and something happened. We're just not sure if it's a driver error or a car problem, yeah, that's really the story of the race. I mean, how often do you see the leader just go out? It's nil point for him, and it'll be nil point in the next race as well, looking at the damage on the car.
And the fact that it's nowhere near the pit lane yet, and the team haven't been able to work on it in race 2. And if they do work on it before race 3, outside of repair time, then he'll have to start last, and that is a nailed-on guarantee of nil points, as Ivan Muller proved yesterday. And in fact, only 3 cars failed to finish today. 6 cars failed to finish the race yesterday, where everybody was, quote, being careful. So Gabriele Tarquini, our race 2 winner, from Jean-Carl Vernet and Yann Erlaché. You can't keep an old dog down, and Gabriele Tarquini, rejuvenated with his championship victory last year. The first race weekend of the season. Day 1 didn't go too well for him. Day 2 starts with victory from Jean-Carl Vernet and Yann Erlaché. And for Vernet, he had a pretty decent race yesterday, finished in 2nd here in race 2. So he is nicely adding to his points haul. Yann Erlaché in 3rd place, first podium of the season. Congratulations there from Ronnie Hartfelt, the head of engineering at Sign Racing. And Erlaché, that was an impressive performance with a car in race 2 that, as in race 1, did not have the pace to stay with the machinery in front. But nobody else managed to find a way to get by him. Esteban Guerrieri in 4th place remains our series leader. There's Yanis Elachet, moves up to 5th in the points, 1 behind Jean-Carl Vernet. But let's hear from Gabriele Tarquini. He is with Alex Legui.
Well, it's like history repeating itself. Here we are once again in Morocco with another win, Gabriele. But a little bit bittersweet for the team, because that probably is not the way that you wanted to get it.
No, I mean, Nicky make a fantastic start. I cannot overtook him in the start, and he was leading. I don't know what's happened, but it seems technical problem. So I'm really sorry for him, because he deserved the win. But in the end, we score a win. I mean, the win left from last year, because I scored first victory on first race, the victory in the 3rd race, but I was not very good on the 2nd one. Now, also with the reverse grid, fortunately, I can take some points for the championship, because our car is not very competitive, but with the reverse grid, we can score points.
And you do still have potential to score some points. I mean, that was a very safe race. Race 3 probably won't be quite so safe, but potentially you can also score points there as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's my target. My grid position on race 3 is not fantastic, but also an 8, 9 or 10 place will be good for me. So I will score as much point as possible for the long distance.
There was a moment where we obviously saw the crash of Katzberg. We heard you talk about brakes over the radio. Were you concerned with knowledge, or was it just something that you were fearful of?
No, I mean, the brakes are very hot, especially on this track. We carry a lot of weight, so the team was about the hot temperature on the brakes. So I cooled down during the safety car, fortunately, and for me it was very safe. The restart on safety car was very good for me.
Yeah, Richie Coleman, the restart, it's not that Gabriele restarted fantastically, it's just that Jean-Carl Vernet was half a lap behind. I don't know what was going on with that. Well, Gabriele Tarquini, the race winner, he didn't lap the entire field, so slight glitch there. Jean-Carl Vernet in 2nd place, Jan Elachet in 3rd. Esteban Guerrieri continues to lead the championship, and Mikel Ascona, what a day he's having. What a day Nicky Katzberg is having as well. What looked like a certain 25 points evaporated, and that's a big fat 0. And as you suggested quite correctly, looks highly unlikely that that car will feature in race 3. If it makes it to the grid, it will be nothing short of a miracle. Esteban Guerrieri then the points leader. Now Tarquini moves up to 2nd ahead of Ted Bjerk by 2. Jean-Carl Vernet in 4th. Elachet up to 5th ahead of Nestor Girolami, who left here last night 3rd in the championship. Montero Muller, Prio in 9th spot ahead of Mikel Ascona, who yesterday had 1 point. After qualifying today had 2. He's now got 13. So suddenly he sees what a good grid position can do to your championship chances. Frederick Vervisch up to 11th place in the championship, and he's the man who will start the final race of the weekend on pole position. So that could see him leap up. If he gets 25 points and the others are stuck towards the tail of the top 10 as he was in this race, then suddenly he'll close in on the top 3. Race 2 in Marrakesh, Morocco, the first encounter on Sunday. Nicky Katzberg on pole from his teammate Gabriele Tarquini, and Katzberg able to get in front of the reigning champion into the first corner. A little bumping and boring between them. Jean-Carl Vernet following through in 3rd place. The Cyan Racing twins, Bjerk and Muller, tried the long way around. They both picked up a place, as did Jan Elachet off the grid. So 3 of the 4 Cyan cars making progress. Little bit of carnage at the chicane the first time, but down at turn 7, all the Golf suddenly in trouble. Shedden touched Coronel, and then all 4 Volkswagens ended up in a big pile. 2/3 of the way into the race, the comfortable leader, Nicky Katzberg, inexplicably shot off the track and into the barriers. 25 points evaporating and a chance of finishing on top of the pile went with it. A safety car period, and then a good restart from Gabriele Tarquini ahead of Jean-Carl Vernet and Jan Erlaché, who had trouble with Esteban Guerrier and Michele Ascona behind him. Gabriele Tarquini, who won race 1 and 3 last year, winning race 2 here in Marrakesh, the one that he missed out on in 2018. Tarquini putting his hat firmly in the ring with his first win of the season. So that's the way race 1 panned out. Let's see our podium finishers.
By Oscaro in a very sunny Marrakesh. Please welcome onto the podium in 3rd position from Cyan Performing Links & Co, Jan Erlaché. Please welcome onto the podium in 2nd position from Leopard Racing Team Audi Sport is Jean-Carl Vernet. And please welcome onto the podium from BRC Hyundai N Squadra Corse, your winning driver is Gabriele Tarquini. And please welcome from BRC Hyundai N Squadra Corse, it's Max Fisore. And now the national anthem for both Gabriele Tarquini and BRC Hyundai N Squadra Corse. Mohammed Zaid, the chairman and CEO of Manara Holding, will present the 3rd position trophy to Cyan Performance Link & Co, Jan Erlaché. Zaid Isgwa, Director of Sport Ministry of Youth and Sports, will present the 2nd position trophy to Leopard Racing Team Audi Sports, Jean-Carl Vernet. Noureddin Halim, Secretary General, Governorate of Marrakesh, Prefecture de Marrakesh, will present the winning driver trophy to BRC Hyundai and Squadra Corse's Gabriele Tarquini.
Bit of monstrous carry-on for all of our podium finishers, Richard, and good points for all of the top 3 drivers.
Team Oscaro Experience will present the winning team trophy to BRC Hyundai and Squadra Corse's Max Fisore.
Yesterday, Ted Björk got on the podium for the newcomers Cyan Racing. This time, it's Jan Erlaché. So it goes to show that the car's definitely got plenty of potential.
Trophies, head to the front of the barrier for your official photograph.
So race 2 done and dusted. And our top 3, along with everybody else, will head back to the pits, ready for race 3. Well, 3 different manufacturers on the podium again. So we've got Hyundai, Audi, and Link & Co.
slightly bittersweet for these guys. Couldn't help but sort of see the powerful image of the podium with Katzberg's car being flat-bedded past past the winner's circle at the same time. Should have been a 1-2 for those guys, but that won't stop Gabrielli celebrating maximum points from this race.
Yep, so Tarquini with the 25 points for victory. And Jean-Carl Vernet, Yann Lachey also benefiting nicely from that. In terms of the team's standings coming in here, it was Munich Motorsport with first and third yesterday who had the advantage. Sign Racing, Link & Co. and Sign Performance, Link & Co. were second and third in the team's standings ahead of BRC, Hyundai and Squadra Corsa. So, yeah, the points were being split between the two Hyundai teams because although Gabrielli races for Hyundai and Squadra Corsa, his teammate races for Hyundai and Lukoil Racing. So had he finished on top of the pile, Nicky Katzberg would have added to that team's points pile. So with these 4-car squads, it's not always a given that the same manufacturer drivers winning add to the same team's points.
Now, Gabrielli, congratulations for your first win of the season. Once again, like you said, you needed your second win from last year here in Morocco. Again, like we say, it would have been nice to have got it in different circumstances. However, 4 points nonetheless. Did you anticipate this from the car after testing last week in Barcelona?
Yes, I mean, it's not the same condition we reached the first race last year. Last year, the car was uncatchable for everybody else. And I won 2 races, scored 1 pole position. We finished 3 Hyundais on the podium. This year it's much tougher than last year. I mean, I was very lucky this morning. I went 12 on the Q1. I passed really for 1,000 Q1, and I did a very good lap on Q2. And this, I mean, is the key of the success. I'm very unhappy for Nicky because he deserved this win. He was leading by very good, and he scored no points, so that's very shame.
Yeah, it's really disappointing, and I assume he won't be able to get back out either. I guess you've heard from him and everything is okay, or the team have?
Yeah, I think it was a technical issue on the probably steering box. So
we have, we believe that Nicky has actually confirmed that it was a brake failure.
I don't know, to be honest. I saw Nicky turn on the right. I was thinking about, to be honest, the steering box, but I have no information.
With that, would you feel more concerned going into race 3?
No, I mean, I scored points on first race, second race. I try to do my best also on the third race, because, I mean, it's the way to approach the starting of this season. I mean, we cannot win races, but we need to score points.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Gabby, fantastic start for you as we make our way. Jean-Carl, when I spoke to you last week, you were adamant this was going to be your year. This is not a bad start, is it?
No, I think it's a pretty cool Sunday afternoon. I mean, the weekend started pretty well. Good qualifying yesterday. Very good race. Didn't pay off, but we still scored some points. And then today, I mean, I was happy with third. I'm sorry for Nick. I don't know what happened for him, but it's bad luck. But I take the points of second, and then I just trying to learn from my mistakes. And yesterday I tried to make the show. Got penalized, so I just took it easy and stay safe. Keep the points, take the points home. Really happy with the results.
Like you were struggling a little bit to keep up with Gabby.
Yeah, I mean, this racetrack is pretty tough for the brakes, and I just didn't want to take any risk. I mean, again, really happy with second. I know that Gabi anyway won't let me win.
No.
And again, yesterday I tried to make a move for a few points. It works, but I got penalized, so I just take it easy now.
Any idea why you were so far behind?
Just happy with the pace. I mean, it's a good Sunday. Let's see how we finish it. We have to be smart and serious until the end. There is one more race. There is a lot of points we can be taken. It's the last race of the weekend, so I'm pretty sure everybody would like to to be a little bit more aggressive in the first lap. So yeah, let's be at the right place at the right moment.
Indeed, Jean-Carl, thank you very much. Jan Erlache. Well, when we spoke to you on the grid just before, you were very prepped, very focused. Now you're on the podium.
Yeah, I told you actually the start will be the key thing to grab some place, and unfortunately for him, Nicky had an issue. Even almost, I don't saw it actually. I learned that I was third when I crossed the line, but yeah, I managed to jump Esteban on the start, and then, like I say, the position were fixed.
How safe were you playing that race?
I mean, we are not playing safe. We are just like thinking that the championship is 30 races. Now there is still 28 to go. So means that we have to grab points and don't take at all any risk at all to like just jump for 2 points. I mean, I was P4 or P3, whatever. I was happy with the points, and now we have to build on this. We shouldn't forget that the car is completely new, the team is completely new, so we are still learning things. So I mean, we are happy about the pace from Ted yesterday, from me today, and let's see what this race 3 will bring.
What will race 3 bring?
I don't know. I'm starting P5. I mean, if I do again a good start, I can aim for maybe a podium. Let's see.
All right, go, get ready, repair time as we get ready for race 3.
Thank you, Al, and thank you to Jan, to Jean-Carl, and to Gabriele Tarquini. And as Al was alluding to, Nicky Katsberg has confirmed on Twitter that it was brake failure. Richard, I mean, it had all the hallmarks. He was well into the corner, and it just didn't look like he sort of bailed of his own volition there. And that's really unfortunate for him. The car is back, but there's only 10 minutes of repair time, so I'm not sure whether we're going to see that or not. That's going to be a story we just have to keep our focus on. But for those who benefited from it, Tarquini, Jean-Carl, for Jan Erlache, you know, both Jean-Carl Vernet and Jan Erlache saying, okay, it's a long run, we've got to make sure we don't make any mistakes, take the points we've got now. So,
of course, it's also a wider concern for Hyundai, despite everybody playing it down in interviews just then. You know, there's 3 of the cars that Hyundai have got in this race, and you know, it is a concern that one of their cars has had such a brake failure like that, because you know there's no time to change anything between now and the next race, so it's got every chance that it may happen again.
Not a surprise to see, as we were looking up and down the pit lane during those interviews, lots and lots of new sets of discs and pads waiting to go on cars. No work being done at the moment on Nicky Katsberg's car. There's, on the left-hand side, Andrea Adamo, the designer of the Hyundai i30N TCR car. And you thought so immediately, and looking at the pictures there, don't think we're going to see that car coming back out for race 3. It may be purely cosmetic. They may be able to do something in the repair time. And I'm sure if they believe there's a chance, they will give it a go. Even if you fail, you kind of owe it to your driver and to yourselves to try, because we've seen some remarkable feats of repair work in repair time. But we'll wait and see. Martin Qua, well, his was a puncture, so we know that they're going to try and get him out. By the way, there is a new rule that is being introduced this year with regards to how you finish in the points. If you don't take the checkered flag, you are not going to be classified as a finisher, therefore you will not take any points. So if your car breaks on the final lap, even if you're a lap ahead and you don't take the checkered flag, you don't finish the race. Well, there's Gabriele Tarquini, a little